Hi Gemini, Amanda here. Welcome to Unseen Hands Healing. Thank you for joining me for this small story reading. So interesting experience here. For these small stories lately, I've been really feeling like books are wanting to jump off my shelf and speak passages to the signs. And so I expected the same thing to happen for Gemini, and I felt like that was right. But there wasn't one book in particular that was jumping out. There was many jumping out, which is sort of congruent with Gemini. You know, you can hold multiple things, multiple truths all at once. Sometimes even feel torn in many different directions. And that is how I felt. I was looking at this like, well, you know, Don Quixote wanted to speak to you. The Sontag book wanted to speak to you. There was like a couple things coming through, but none of the messages quite felt right. They were all incredibly different. And I was like, what is going on here? So I felt a little stuck. I decided to go take a walk, do some other things, and come back to your energy and see what was going on. And then I closed my eyes in front of my bookshelf and I heard, it's right in front of you. And so I opened my eyes, and right in front of me was this book, Tuck Everlasting. Let me read this to you. Okay, so context, Tuck and Winnie are in a rowboat, and he's kind of explaining the everlasting situation to her. You know what that is all around us, Winnie, said Tuck. Life. Moving, growing, changing, never the same 2 minutes together. This water, you look out at it every morning and it looks the same, but it ain't. All night long it's been moving, coming in through the stream back there to the west, slipping out through the stream down east here. Always quiet, always new, always moving on. You can't hardly see the current, can you? And sometimes the wind makes it look like it's going the other way. But it's always there. The water is always moving on, and someday, after a long while, it'll come to the ocean. Okay, then they listen to some frogs, and they look at the trees, whatever. You know what happens then to the water? The sun sucks some of it right up out of the ocean, carries it back in the clouds, and then it rains. And the rain falls into the stream, and then the stream keeps moving on, taking it all back again. It's a wheel, Winnie. Everything's a wheel, turning and turning, never stopping. The frogs is part of it, and the bugs, and the fish, and the wood thrush too, and people. But never the same ones. Always coming in new, always growing and changing and moving on. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way it is. It goes on to the ocean. But this rowboat now, it's stuck. If we didn't move it out ourselves, it would stay here forever, trying to get loose, but stuck. That's what us Tucks are, Winnie. We're stuck so's we can't move on. We ain't part of the wheel no more. We dropped off, Winnie, left behind. And everywhere around us, things is moving and growing and changing. You, for instance, a child now, but someday a woman. And after that, moving on to make room for new children. So there's this beautiful message coming through, essentially about the Wheel of Fortune, the wheel card in the tarot. It is about the life, death, rebirth cycle that is inherent to all things here in this human experience, in this animal and nature, planet Earth experience. And there's also something coming through about feeling stuck. You know, Tuck talks about his experience of being outside of that wheel, of being suspended in time while the wheel seems to be turning without him. And, you know, I'm getting this sense, Gemini, that that's how you're feeling. Perhaps some wild things have been happening lately or nothing has been happening, you know, one or the other. I feel like both extremes could leave you feeling like the world is spinning without you in some way. But that's not true. In this scenario, your energy is Winnie. You are very much a human who will experience birth and death in many ways, many times throughout your life. You will be here and you will leave here. You know, there's this just like really zoomed out perspective that says, hey, if you feel stuck, if you think you're stuck, realize that this is just some phase that you're in on that wheel. I love how he describes the cycle of the water as cycle of the wheel. You know, the rain turns into the river, which then flows down to the ocean, which then gets sucked up by the sun into the clouds, which then rains again. And so you might be in the phase right now where you're like all that water being held up in the cloud waiting to rain. But you are absolutely on the wheel, Gemini. Which means your circumstances will change. So we're using the Next World Tarot for you here today. Let's see what the cards have to add. I'm going to choose 3 cards here from the deck. Okay, see what we got. Okay. The Devil. This is interesting because the Devil energy is all about feeling bound. And that's really what we were just talking about, is feeling stuck, feeling like somehow you're trapped, maybe even feeling trapped in this cycle, being very aware of the wheel turning and feeling trapped within that somehow. Maybe you're having this sort of existential moment of realizing that things just roll so much bigger than you, and feeling like you don't have a choice in anything. I think that's what's wanting to come through. Almost like the universe and nature is the devil that's like binding you. But it's not true, you know. This is Saturn. This is Saturn in Capricorn, which right now Saturn is in Capricorn, on the South Node, which is speaking to cycles of the past. This moment in time, the way the wheel is turning right now, is wrapping up cycles of the past. I'm being drawn to these eagles. They seem to be holding these ribbons, which seem to me like they are holding up some sort of fabric of the way this all works. They, meaning eagles, who are beings that can fly very, very high and get a lot of perspective on things. They've got the larger view, and perhaps you're feeling trapped because you can't quite see the larger view, but you're very aware of the fact that you are bound to this life, death, rebirth cycle. And that can feel scary. I know the card says justice is not blind when silence equals profit, but that's not coming through as something particularly relevant for you. Unless it is, which, okay. But that's not a message I'm receiving. I'm receiving something larger about feeling bound by the cycles of life in a way that is scary, in a way that perhaps is making you feel stuck or uncomfortable or fearful. You know, just as I'm saying stuck, uncomfortable, fearful, we have the Ace of Cups. This is a new beginning. This is a potential rising up here out of the mud. That's what the lotus flower does. This is a lotus pod. It rises up out of the deep, muddy waters towards the sun, towards illumination, where it can bloom once it has broken the surface of the water. The signifier down here is the roots of water. There's something about the roots, the emotional roots, because we're looking at water, and the Ace of Cups is renewed emotional potential. But it very much has something to do with your roots, like where you come from, maybe family, maybe even ancestrally. There's something here about the roots of your emotional life. And it's like you're wanting to burst up out of that now. And it's very new. These are old lotuses that have already kind of settled and bloomed. This is just like first time punching up through the lily pads, punching up through the water here. With a lot of potential. See all these like pods? There's a lot of, it's like burgeoning with potential. So whether you can feel this or not, it's here. And that potential lies in you connecting your emotions to your roots in some way. Generations, I'm feeling like generations of people, also representing the life cycles. You know, this is actually bringing up my own tattoo for me. I have a tattoo on my lower back that is 3 lotus flowers in different stages of growth, in different stages of life. The one on the bottom is the fully bloomed lotus resting. And the other 2 are sprouting in different forms. One has just sprouted up and the other is just beginning to open. This seems to me like the just sprouting up, full of potential here. And so I got that tattoo also to commemorate where I come from and my family. And so there is very much something here about family, like generations, you know, the fully bloomed lotus being like the grandmother, the next one being the mother, the next one being the child, that kind of generational situation. It's maiden mother crone is what it is. Triple goddess. All right. This is big. This is really, really big. And that energy in combo with the devil is really talking about breaking generational cycles. Maybe you've been feeling stuck in some sort of generational cycle, family cycle. Well, I think that is being broken because, or at least the potential to do that is here, because here we are, the 2 of Wands standing at the threshold. You're standing at the doorway here. 2 of Wands is about personal power. It's about stepping through a portal, a threshold into a new phase of life. Dominion is what this deck has named this card. Because it is about power. It is about stepping into your power and having the power of choice in your own life. To break out of old cycles that bind, to be essentially perhaps the first in your generation to do something different. The first in your family, or not generation, the first in your family among many generations to do something different. And doing something different allows you a level of personal power that perhaps your ancestors have not had access to. But here you are taking that upon yourself, stepping into that for you. And that, you know, healing of that kind of intergenerational trauma, you do that for yourself and you heal that for all of those generations behind and before you. Wow. It's also really interesting too, because down here it looks like these eggs have just hatched. And it makes me wonder, like, where are the critters? Where are the critters that hatched from them? But these eggs have hatched now. And that feels like this egg hatching, about to hatch. This is really, really brand new. I'm getting a lot of like young energy, but like a youth or a young adult that is really just like branching out and doing their own thing for the first time in a really, really big way. And it breaks cycles. This is just breaking cycles. That's what this is. Wow, Gemini. Okay, really deep reading. So I'm going to continue pulling cards here from the Next World Tarot and likely grab oracle cards as well over in the extended reading to see where this is going. Maybe get some clarity on exactly what cycle is breaking here, how to break it, and how to now fully move forward from this choice point, this stepping through the threshold. All right. So if you're interested in that, if this is resonating with you so far, you can follow the link to Vimeo where you can view that extended reading. And if not, Gemini, thanks for watching your small story. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Somebody's got your shirt pulled back and you're trying to run. That's sort of the feeling. Something's holding you back right now. And you're frustrated. You're like, the energy is like, you're chomping at the bit for like, oh, I'm just trying to push forward. I'm just trying to push forward. I'm trying to get this forward movement. Why am I being held back? And I think you're being held back by these past cycles because it's time to close them out once and for all. Saturn in Capricorn on the South Node with Pluto, you know, for those astrology people that know the language I just spoke. Okay, it's time to close out these past cycles before you can move on. It's like, yeah, we know you're chomping at the bit. We know you want to go, but you cannot move on until this past stuff, this generational stuff is looked at very plainly, and until you understand the roots